أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Last week we have taken some small introduction about the fiqh of tahara and the wudu. Today we will divide the lecture into two parts. One part will be about aqidah, the iman, because our deen is divided into two parts, Islam and iman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned two types of people, Muslimin and Mu'mineen. So the difference between the two words Islam, and this is how it is written in English, and Iman, so try also to write it in Arabic so that you train yourself. So what is the difference between those two words? Islam, this is the name of the deen, that we say we are Muslims. And Iman is the belief. The difference between those two words is that Islam is related to practicing. So the salah that we do is part of our Islam. And the fasting, the siyam, is part of our Islam. The zakah is part of our Islam. When you treat people well, this is part of our Islam. When you obey your parents, this is part of our Islam. When you advise someone to do something good, is part of Islam. When you educate your children in a good way to make them good Muslims, this is part of Islam. Everything you say for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or everything you do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether this thing is an obligation for you or you are doing it to gain more ajr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, fasting Ramadan is an obligation, this is fard. But when you fast every Monday and Thursday, as the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do, this is something that you do extra to get more ajr. So anything you do or you say for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it is fard, it is duty or not, this is part of Islam. Now when we come to Iman, belief, Iman is everything that you have in your heart. When you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is part of Iman. When you believe that there is Yawm al-Qiyamah, Day of Judgment, this is part of Iman. When you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have sent messengers to you, this is part of Iman. When something happened to you, when you, for example, you lose someone whom you love, or when your son gets sick and you make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure your son, this is part of Iman. Because why you make dua? Because you believe that only the one who cures is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is part of Iman. So Iman is the thing that you have in your heart. And Islam is the thing that you practice and you do. And our deen has both. Okay? But the question is, why our deen is called Islam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam. The deen that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islam. The deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts is Islam. And in the same surah, Surah Al-Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ومن يبتغي غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين. The one who take any deen other than Islam, it will not be accepted from him, and he will be, in the day of judgment, he will be, or she will be a loser. And the loser means what? In Jahannam, because in Yawm al-Qiyamah there are only two places. Either Jannah or Jahannam, there is no in between. No one can say, okay, Allah, I'll return back to dunya and practice more. No, this is not, you got your chance. So, our deen is called Islam because in Islam you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make your life goes in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you how to let it go. Because there are many people in the world who say that we believe in God. And they are not lying. They really believe that there is God. And they believe that this universe is not coming by chance or it have come from somewhere. Someone have created this universe. And there is God. But worship Him, find the right way to worship Him? No. They want to live their lives in their own way. And they are satisfied with themselves because they believe in God. So are those people Muslims? No. That's why it is wrong to say about the kuffar. When someone say kafir, some people they translate it wrong to disbeliever. No. Not necessarily a disbeliever. There are some believers who are kafirs. Because he is a believer, he believes in Allah, he believes that there is God, but he still lives his life on his own way. So this person is not a Muslim by definition. When we come to the definition of the word Islam, what is the word Islam in the dictionary? Islam is coming, the meaning of Islam is to submit to Allah, submission to Allah. Or in general, submission. When you submit yourself, this is Islam. But in terms of deen, this submit to Allah. So Islam doesn't mean peace, as some people they understand it wrong, because there is another word called salam. When you say assalamu alaikum, you say peace be upon you. This is the meaning of this word. Right? And salam is one of the values of Islam. But Islam as a whole doesn't mean peace. There are a lot of things which are more important than this. Right? So Islam is to make your life goes in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered it to go. That's why the deen is named Islam. So it is not only to have in your heart belief, but you have to prove it by letting your life goes as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Then you are a Muslim. But to say I believe in Allah and then live as you want, no, you are not a Muslim. So in Islam there are rules for Islam. The rules of Islam, the rules of life. And this is what is called Sharia. And the Sharia, it means the law. So this here, this is not the pronunciation, but this is the meaning. So the word Sharia, it means the law, because Islam, it means that you let your life be according to the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sharia, yes.
So if you're born in a Muslim family but you don't practice, so you're a mu'min, not a Muslim. Yes? Or
Now we will come to how
Yeah.
to say the name,
Because
because this is also very important.
You did
We will come to this.
Yeah, you mentioned it, but you didn't. You
Yeah.
didn't nice moment in a Muslim.
Yes. Because we will mention now, after we give these definitions, what is the classification of people. This person is Muslim or not, and this person is mu'min or not. So the Sharia is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this Sharia has sources. The two main sources of Sharia is the Quran, which is directly word by word from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Sunnah, the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Those are the main things, the main sources. And there are some other sources which are the effort of scholars to describe the meaning in these sources to people and to apply it in life. And those scholars, they are not prophets, they are not gods. It means that we cannot say, whatever this scholar say, I will take. No. Because we don't put people in the rank of Rasulullah or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone can say things which are correct and which are wrong. So whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we don't argue about it. Whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in an authentic hadith, we don't argue about it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have chosen this person to guide us. And as long as we believe that he's sent from Allah, so whatever he tells us, we follow. But if any other person, even from the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, the generation after Sahaba, from the four Imams of Fiqh, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, anyone else nowadays or in previous ages say something, we take from him if he describe his proof. If he describe his proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said this, and based on this and this, the rule of this thing is this. And it is then we reach another word which is called fiqh.
H at the end.
Yeah, fiqh, yes.
H, right? At the end.
Yeah, I'll write it in English, the pronunciation.
Because,
But this letter is qaf, but there is no qaf in English.
Yes, but I mean, the same Sharia, you have the H, right? At the end.
Sharia, yes.
Yeah, but I saw you have two puntum on the top of the H, you see?
Yeah, I will describe about this because today we will take some small part about Arabic letters also. So this, if you want to write it, in English. So what is the definition of fiqh? Anyone have heard this word before? Fiqh?
Is it not like the process to make a law? Sort of, no?
Sort of. You heard about this word before?
Yes, but I really don't.
Sister
I was
Khadija?
thinking it was something with the aql to do. Fiqh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little bit also. Sister Khadija, did you hear this word before?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what is the meaning of it?
Yeah.
You can tell us? Okay, I'll tell it. Fiqh, the meaning of the word fiqh, we said that there are two main sources. Okay? Quran and Sunnah. There are things which are directly said in Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, say, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, never do zina. This is the direct order إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا. It is a fahisha, it is a major sin, and it is a very bad thing to do. This is very clear. Does it need someone else to explain it? No. It doesn't need a scholar to explain it, because this thing is very clear. Okay? Other thing in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. The salah is a duty for the mu'mineen, and it is specified by exact times. Does this need an explanation?
No.
It does?
Does it?
Yes. Because there is something clear about this, that the salah is a duty. This we understand. But how should we do the salah?
Oh, you mean,
It is not mentioned, right?
No.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you in this ayah that the salah is duty for you. But did He tell you how many rak'at to do? How you do the rak'ah, the ruku' and sujood? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't tell. Then it demands an explanation. Right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught the Sahaba how to do this. Okay? So this is an example that the first main source is not enough by itself. It needs explanation from the second source, which is Sunnah. Okay? This is one thing. So the Quran and Sunnah are the two main sources together. And if anything in the Quran and Sunnah is not mentioned regarding our life, for example, smoking. At the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did anyone smoke? No, because people didn't know about this. You know when people discovered about smoking. You know the story about that? When they went to the American continent and they found this Native Americans.
Yeah.
They were smoking. Those were the first people who smoked, as I know. So before that time, no one have known about smoking.
But this is not tobacco in the countries of.
I'm not sure, but they used to smoke there. Something else might be.
Oh, okay.
So there might be other stories of other people.
Okay.
But as I understand, it is not discovered at the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one knew about smoking. If we take another thing, did the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the Sahaba, any one of them knew about heroin, for example? No. This is something discovered recently. Now, smoking is halal or haram. Is it mentioned in Quran? No. Is it mentioned in Sunnah? No. Is heroin halal or haram? Is it mentioned in Quran? No. Is it mentioned in Sunnah? No. Then, there are some scholars who do something called qiyas, and this is part of fiqh. Qiyas is to make the benchmark for a rule for something based on the rule of something similar. For example, this heroin kills, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said exactly in Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, don't kill yourself. This is haram, it's a major sin. And smoking is harmful, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said وَيُحِلُّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتُ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْكُمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. Everything which is harmful is haram. Then they said, based on these rules, this thing is haram. Right? So the meaning of the word fiqh, this is the science of concluding the Islamic rules from the sources.
The science.
The science. The science of making the Islamic rules from the main sources. Based on a lot of rules.
The science.
The science of
Yes.
constructing the Islamic rules for different issues based on the two main sources, Quran and Sunnah.
For different sources as well.
Based on the two main sources, for different issues,
Okay.
based on the two main sources, Quran and Sunnah. Okay?
Based on
So the Sharia is the law. Okay? Fiqh is how to make this law or how to describe this law. So the Quran, the rules of Quran are part of the Sharia. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us do this, don't do this. Because not all the Quran is Sharia. Parts of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about the angels, is telling us about stories from the other prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about Jannah and Jahannam, and even describing some details. In Jannah there is this and this and this. In Jahannam it will happen this and this and this. This is not Sharia. This is about Aqidah, what we believe that it is going to happen, what we believe that there is there and we cannot see. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, do this, don't do this, this is Sharia. Some of these things are clear. It doesn't need fiqh to describe it. And fiqh is to conclude the rules from the two main sources to make it clear for people. So that's why you will find a lot of scholars in fiqh and a lot of people who may understand things differently. But you will never find someone who's a Muslim, a real Muslim, and he suspect about the basics of Quran and Sunnah. This person is not a Muslim. Like, for example, there are some people who say we are Muslims, but we take only the Quran, not the Sunnah. We don't believe in the Sunnah. You tell them, why don't you believe in the Sunnah? They say that the Quran is the word of Allah, while the Sunnah is from a human being. Right? So how can I make equality between what is from Allah and what is from a human being? I will accept only what is from Allah, but I will reject whatever from a human being. They have a point, right? But then
but they will
the
have,
question is, you say that the Quran is from Allah, right? How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you this Quran? How do you know it is from Allah? Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send Jibreel alayhi salam to you? Did any one of us see the angel Jibreel alayhi salam and he gave you this Quran? No. Did you see some books, for example, the books of Quran? The book of Quran by the way is called Mus'haf. So this is called Mus'haf. Okay? The Quran is what is written there. So you can have Quran in your mind. There are people who are hafiz, who have the Quran in their mind. You can have Quran in your laptop. You can have Quran in your USB. You can have Quran in many formats. But the paper format is called Mus'haf. So we don't say, for example, if we have many of these, for example, there are 4 here, we don't say that there are 4 Qur'ans there. Because the Quran is not a word to be plural. There is only one Quran. But we say there are 4 Mus'hafs, or Arba' Masahif, because the plural Arabic of Mus'haf is Masahif. Okay? So did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send a lot of Masahif from the sky to people, then they knew that this is from Allah? No. But then how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the Quran? How did we get this Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel alayhi salam to a human being who is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he gave him this wahi, the Quran, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught this Quran to his Sahaba. The Sahaba are the Muslims at the time of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Sahaba taught this Quran and the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to the Tabi'een. And the Tabi'een taught this to the next generation, and the next generation taught this to the next generation, and so on. This is how it reached us. So if someone would claim that I will not trust any human, then you shouldn't take the Quran as well. Because Quran have reached you through humans,
Mm.
not through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
Can I ask a question? It's about this, but not right about this theme.
Mm.
But it's about the three generations after the Prophet.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
I read they was called Salafin, and why some people they call themselves now Salafi.
Mm.
Because I read that the best Muslims there was
The first generation.
yeah,
Mm.
and the Salafin, and why after this they was not called Salafi, and now they start to call themselves Salafi.
Yes. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in one hadith, the best generation, mean that the majority are good people, is my generation. And in Arabic, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, خير القرون قرني. Qarn means 100 years. And this was referring to one generation at the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because people used to live more. Maybe now a generation maybe maximum 70 years or something. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said خير القرون. Qurun is the plural of qarn, and qarn is 100 years. The best of the qurun, qarni, is my generation. ثم الذين يلونهم, and then the people comes after them. ثم الذين يلونهم, and then the people who comes after them. ثم يأتي بعد ذلك خلوف, and then there will be people coming afterwards. يشهدون ولا يستشهدون, there will be a lot of liars. ويخونون ولا يؤتمنون, and a lot of betrayers. It means that the majority will not be good. Not everyone will be bad. But it means that for those 3 generations, the majority was good. But after then, it will coming less than 50%. Okay? So based on this, some scholars, not far away from now, at the times where started, let's say, I think at the 70s. No, not at the 70s. At the 18 something, when there was still the Ottoman Empire, and at the time where this what we call the state of Saudi, it was constructed. So one scholar who was there, his name is Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. People there in this area, their aqidah and their practicing of Islam, it went very wrong. Some of them, they started worshipping the people in the graves and asking them, and he told them that this thing is wrong, and there was no one was following any of the good scholars or the scholars of the time of the 4 Imams or the Sahaba or the Tabi'een. They were just following some people who were telling them do this, and they bring money to them, and they were calling them scholars. So he told them, leave all of this and just take from the best people that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about them. Those are the best. And they call this the school of Salaf. What is the meaning of Salaf in Arabic? Salaf. Salaf mean the people who came before. So it doesn't mean exactly that it has to be a few hundreds of years. No, Salaf is anyone who come before. Even, for example, your father is a Salaf for you. right? Because if you take him as a model and you respect him and you follow his teachings, so he's your salaf. And you are called khalaf. So this is another word. Khalaf. So khalaf are those who come after. So your son is a khalaf for you. That's why Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he was called Khalifa. You heard about this word, right? So why he was called Khalifa? Because he's the Khalaf of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when the Khalaf is one person, his name is Khalifa. So Khalifa is the person who is following another person, following his way of life, and implementing his rules. Okay? So Salaf mean the people before, and Khalaf mean the people after. So for those people we are their Khalaf, and for us they are our Salaf. Okay? So this is how it is originated from. And he made a good effort to let people go back to the Aqidah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. And he always used the argument. For example, someone tell him, I have to bring some food to the grave to get barakah from that sheikh who died. Then he tell him, did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say this? Did the Sahaba do this? He say, no, our sheikh said so. He told him, is your sheikh is better than those people? So he was using this argument because people, their standards become misshapen. So you have to use another standard to prove that they are wrong, to let them leave this ignorance that they are doing. So that's why he said, our school is the Salafi school. We follow the Salaf. Okay? But one important thing that also important to know, because in Islam there is no extremism. You cannot go extreme in this way or in that way. Okay? Some Muslim youth nowadays who use this name and they call themselves Salafi. Okay? They didn't study the Sharia in any school. They don't have a certificate. They don't have knowledge. They just read some books by their own. And then they tell all of those scholars that you are listening to, I will not listen to any one of them. I am Salafi. It means what? I will read myself and I will understand myself. I will read the Quran, I will read the Sunnah, I will read what the scholars of Salaf, the first 3 generations, said, and I will decide for myself. Because I'm Salafi. Okay? This is wrong. And this is not the meaning of the word Salafi. Okay? So, you need to learn first. Yes, when you listen to a scholar, you don't make him as a god, like what people do today. Whatever the sheikh tells, they do. Like, for example, an example of this, the Shia, for example. They have this problem. Whatever their scholars say, they don't care if it has a proof or not. If Ayatullah, the Ayatullah is the big sheikh. If Ayatullah said something, then it is from Allah. They even believe that some of them, they still get wahi from Allah.
What is wahi?
Wahi means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them things directly.
Revelation.
Like the Christians, because this is what took the Christians to this level. They claimed that there were prophets after Isa alayhi salam. So the first one, this Apostle Paul, the one who made up this thing. And for example, in Egypt, in my country, they believe that the Pope of Alexandria is getting wahi from Allah. Even one time he was speaking the TV, and he said that sometimes I ask the heavens to give me some things, and who doesn't give me, I put pressure on the heavens to give me. He said this, and it is recorded in YouTube. He said it in Arabic, of course.
Does Egypt have our own pope?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Orthodox Pope, Pope of Alexandria.
For the Copts, no?
Yes. So some Muslims or some people who say that we are Muslims, they have this. So Islam doesn't have this. And at the same time, Islam doesn't let people go like, a group of lambs. Or, lambs are even arranged. I don't know if this person go this way, this person go this way, this person go that way. Because the science of Sharia, it is not for anyone just to tell his opinion like this. But when you listen to someone, for example, I'm giving you a course here. If I told you anything, this thing is haram, please, what is the proof? You don't just take from me, because I can tell you something wrong. You told me that this is haram. What is the proof that this is haram? I tell you the proof, you are convinced, okay. So this is what we do with the ulama. So whoever call himself Salafi and he say, okay, I don't respect anyone, I don't take from anyone, I'll just take from these scholars, this is also ignorance. But this is how the word come from.
Is this, for example, the Salaf? There is some people, I have heard some sheikhs that they believe that they have there is a route all the way back to almost Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba and this.
What kind of route?
Like they follow them. They say we have to go all the way back, to get the knowledge from them,
You mean like a chain of narration?
Yes, like chain generation, yeah.
Yeah, but there is, yeah. Every sunnah is like they have a name who said it to who's.
Yeah, the science of hadith. This is another science of hadith. For every reporter of hadith, he has to mention the chain of people from him to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and every person in this chain have a CV. And based on this CV of every person, they decide to take this hadith as an authentic hadith or not. So, for example, there are some people also who can say, implement, because how an ignorant person can implement rules in a different way. Some of them, for example, this is what I'm wearing now. Okay? This is called qulunsuwa, and what you wear also. So they say you must wear this. It's good to wear this something, and you must wear this is something else, right? You must wear this. And some of them, they said you cannot wear the t-shirt and the trousers. You have to wear the jilbab. Because those things, the t-shirt and the trousers, are bid'ah. Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not wear them. And some of them, even they go more extreme. They say you should not cut your hair. You have to have long hair. Because cutting the hair is bid'ah. Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to have long hair. Okay? So why they say this? Because they didn't study. Because in fiqh there are two different things. There is something called sunnat al-'ada and sunnat al-ibadah. Sunnah, it means the thing that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do. Some of these the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do based on the culture of his time. And some of them he used to do as ibadah. For example, the lihya, the beard. This is based on culture or based on ibadah? This is ibadah. How we know? Because the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told in many hadith, leave your beard.
Can I ask a question when
Yeah.
we're talking about the beard? I heard some Muslims say, but the Muslim beard, you don't have to let it go. You can just trim it so it's,
Yeah, this is something else about whether you can cut from it or not. Okay? And there is no hadith that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said you cannot cut anything from your beard. So whether you cut from it or not, of course, if you want to just follow the Sunnah of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as it is, you don't cut, because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't used to cut. But if you cut from it, it doesn't mean that you have done a crime, right? But this is Sunnah from Ibadah, because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us to do so. Now, did the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tell us you have to wear the jilbab? No. He told us it is better to wear the white clothes, yes. But if someone wear black like I am, is it haram? No. It's not haram. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wore this clothing because he lived in this time. And the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wore something on his head because they used to wear things on their head, always. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made his hair long because people at that time, all of them, they are making their hair long. But the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never said, wear a turban or make your hair long. If someone would like to wear a turban because he like to be like Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then he will take ajr, because he's doing this to look like Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We cannot tell him, don't wear this, we are in 2015, this is dressing from 14. No, he just want to look like Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What is your problem? But he cannot order other people, you must not leave your hair without covering, this is bid'ah. No.
But it's much better, for example, I would say that it's much better for us Muslims that we have to we wear something that is Islamic, to show that, like, that you see our women, they always wear, so people can see from distance that, okay, this girl is a Muslim.
Yes.
So,
but also depends on the situation, right? Because, for example, if I go to my job, I work at the University of Oslo, for example. Almost all of my colleagues are not Muslims. If I wear the jilbab and the imam and I go to the University of Oslo to my office, for example, if I go to a conference, people, how they think about this thing?
No, but you
So
still
it
have
may
something
cause
to
some
say.
harm for people. It may bring some other thoughts in their minds. But I don't have to wear this to show them that I'm a good Muslim.
No.
Because if a Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to live now, maybe he will wear the same as people wearing now. Yeah.
It's different, this of women and men.
Yeah. If we take, for example, the example of hijab. Okay? By the way, the word hijab, it means to put a border. So, for example, when we take the dars on, sometimes we put border so that our sisters, they feel relaxed during the time. So this is called hijab, and it is mentioned in the Quran in terms of borders. Okay? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in two ayat. One ayah in Surah Al-Nur and one ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab. How the Muslim woman should dress. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Nur, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell the mu'mins to lay down their sight. وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ, and protect themselves from zina. ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. This is more clean for them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all what they do. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, and tell the Muslim women يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنْ, to lay down their sights. وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنْ, and to protect themselves from zina. وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, and not to show up their beauty other than the parts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to be shown. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. They used their khimars. What is the meaning of the khimar? The khimar at that time, it was the head cover. Because khimar is to cover the top of anything. So if, for example, I have a vessel of water here, and I put a piece of cloth on it, this is called khimar for this. And this how comes the word khamr. What is the meaning of khamr? Khamr in English?
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol. Why this is called khamr? Why it was called khamr in the beginning?
Because it covers your...
Because it affects what? The brain, right? And where is your brain? Is it in your head or your arm or your stomach or where? It is in your head. So this is how the word khamr come, because it affects the top of you. So khimar is the head cover. So the women at that time, they used to cover their heads and their shoulders, but they used to show their chest and neck. You know, like ghutra. You know about ghutra? Yeah, I think I have one here. This is ghutra. Did you see it before?
In Sweden we call this Palestina call.
No, the other one it's black and white.
Aha, it's the black and white that's
Yes.
called. Okay.
So they were doing like this. Okay? You can see some sheikhs today, they have this. Okay? So this can be called ghutra for men or khimar for women. So they were doing like this, covering their head and their shoulders, but they were showing this part. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. Juyub is the plural of jayb. Jayb means the neck and this part. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they used their khimar to cover their jayb. So like this. Okay, so what will be shown? Only the face. Right?
So, because I've seen some women have hijab that is, they only collect the hair and cover only the hair.
Yes.
But the neck hair is free.
This is the Jewish hijab. And I'm not saying this because they're just for insultion. Because the Jews, many part of them, they only cover this as part of their deen.
But this is not according to
No.
Sharia. Okay.
According to Islam, you have to have the khimar and cover your neck and chest with the khimar. So your ears are covered, your chest is covered, your shoulders are covered, and this is very important. So the hijab is going also there. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in another ayah in Surah An-Nur. Then this part Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about how they should do in their upper part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Ahzab, يا أيها النبي, the Prophet, قل لأزواجك, tell your wives, وبناتك, and your daughters, ونساء المؤمنين, and the Muslim women, يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن, they cover their bodies with the jilbab. What is the jilbab? It is called today for women, they call it abaya. So the jilbab is something which covers your body and it is loose thing. So jilbab can be for men, is called qamis, and can be for women, is called abaya.
But is the ruling on the specific clothes or the style of the clothes that is loose?
Yes, the style of the clothes that is loose, to be jilbab.
So it can be, so to say, Western clothes, but as long as it's loose and it doesn't reveal any.
Yeah,
parts.
but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said not to let them show out their beauty. For example, one Muslim woman can have the correct hijab in terms of the size and abaya, and then she have a lot of colors and a lot of things, so that whenever she go to some place, people started looking at her. Then what is the meaning of hijab then?
Okay.
Because the hijab is to protect yourself from people looking at you. Okay?
But there is no, you can have a color hijab like green, red.
Yeah,
There's
but
no-
if it is not very attractive thing.
But you can still, like, the women can still, like, they can still feel good, you know, like they want to wear some good abaya.
There is a difference between wearing something which is which is clean and handsome, and something which is attractive. These are two things.
Yeah.
Right?
Like stuff. I was about to say this word they use, sexy.
Yeah. So this not allowed in Islam. Okay.
Stuff.
So the difference between the Muslim woman and the non-Muslim woman, or the correct Muslim woman, the right Muslim woman, and the other one, each of them, before she go down, before she leave home, she stand up at the mirror and she look to herself. The non-Muslim woman, she look, is she nice enough? Will people admire her? And the Muslim woman, she say, is anything of my hair appearing? Am I covered properly? This is the difference. So the hijab, it is mentioned in these two ayat clearly about the upper part and the lower part of the body. That's why it is something fard, because not only in the Sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran also in details.
But back to the question of the sister, the Salaf. Like, we cannot call ourselves like we are Salaf, you know, like, because I see that a group of people call themselves like this, like Salaf, you know, we are Salaf. What do they say?
Salaf Salih.
Yeah, Salaf Salih. Yeah. So they have, like, you know.
First, it is wrong to call yourself Salaf Salih, because Salaf Salih are those people who lived hundreds of years ago.
Okay. Because
so by definition, you cannot call themselves Salaf. But some people, they call themselves Salafi. Salafi, it means the follower of the people of Salaf. But if you call yourself Salaf, then it is wrong by definition.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And the correct way is to call yourself Muslim.
Yes, this is what I'm saying.
Okay?
Yeah.
But why some people, they call themselves Salaf, or they call themselves, for example, Sunni?
Sunni, yeah.
Just to differentiate yourself from other people who say that we are Muslim and they are doing some wrong things. Okay? So when someone, for example, tell you, why aren't you doing this and this? Why don't you put a stone when you make sujood? I see other person, whenever he prays Salah, he has to have a stone under his head. You tell him, no, I am a Muslim Sunni. Mean that I'm following the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not put a stone when he prays. Okay? So this only you say in terms of differentiating yourself from others. But you don't say this word over and over again. So the main definition is I am Muslim. Yeah. So again, fiqh is the science that describes the parts of the main text, the Quran and Sunnah, to us. And there are a lot of scholars, and it is a big science, and there are bachelor degrees, master degrees, PhD, and our Sheikh in Al-Azhar, he said that to become alim in Al-Azhar, you have to study Sharia 30 years to become alim. He was talking about some people who say that they are alim. He said some people, they study only 2 years and they say that I'm alim, and people call them alim. He said to become real alim, you study 30 years. Not the bachelor, before the bachelor in the high school, in Al-Azhar they finish the whole Quran when they are in the primary school. So my father, he memorized the whole Quran when he was from at the primary school. So when he was 11 years. And then in the secondary school, and then the high school, and then you go to the school of Sharia, and then you get master in Sharia, and then you get PhD in Sharia, and then you get عالمية. عالمية means that you are alim. So there is a certificate that you are alim. This is after the PhD. Not everyone have PhD is have this alimiyya. Okay? So it's very important to study and study and study and have patience. And Islam is like every other science. Whenever you study more, you know more that you need to know more and more and more. When you have little thing, you think that you know everything. But when you really start to study, it was not like what I was thinking. Okay?
There's a proverb, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes. I'll give you a small example about something that I didn't understand. You know, in the definition of rules, there is something called haram and there is something called makruh. Did you hear about this? Sister Khadija, you heard about haram and makruh? Haram means that it is forbidden. Means that if you do it, you are a sinner. Makruh, it means that you should not do it. But if you do it, you are not a sinner. Okay? So, the word makruh, it was not mentioned in Quran in this context. Or Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned it in this context. This is a definition which is for things made by the scholars. The four imams of fiqh, to put the things which are advised not to do. They called it makruh. But the word makruh is mentioned in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about worshipping al-asnam, the statues, drinking, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كُلُّ ذَلِكَ كَانَ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ مَكْرُوهًا. All of this for Allah, it is makruh. So I was wondering, these things are, of course, is haram. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that it is makruh? Because it's coming from the word makruh itself, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curse the one who do this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
like he cursed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cursed, but this is not a sin.
no, this is a sin. To worship the asnam, this is a sin,
Yeah.
of course. Right? So, it's coming from the original meaning of the word makruh. So, the word makruh, when it is used in the Quran, it is not the same meaning as the word makruh which is used in the books of fiqh. And to know this, there is a science called usul. usul al-fiqh. The principles of fiqh. The principles of fiqh, is it clear?
Yeah, the last letter is.
Okay, let's write it here. أصول الفقه. So أصول الفقه, the principles of fiqh. This is another science other than fiqh. This is about the rules of fiqh. So fiqh, it means it is about the rules of the law. Then this is about the rules of fiqh. What is the methodology of making a rule out of the Quran and the Sunnah text? and what are the concepts which are used in the fiqh and what is the meaning of this. So for example, the word makruh that we mentioned, what is the meaning of the word itself? It's coming from kariha, to hate something. I dislike something. I hate something. It can mean dislike and it can mean hate. Okay? You can say, for example, I don't like coffee. It doesn't mean that you hate coffee. If someone drinks coffee at the front of you, you get nervous. Why are you drinking coffee? No. It's okay if someone drink it, but I don't drink it. And it can mean also that you really hate something. Right? I hate this person. He's so and so and so, for example. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He used the word makruh in Quran, it means that this thing is extremely prohibited. But the word makruh in the science of fiqh, the ulama used it in the other context. It means that it is something that you shouldn't do.
But makruh in this context in fiqh, it doesn't mean that it's not very clear halal, yeah?
No, it means that it is not haram, but you shouldn't do it.
But isn't it there a hadith where it says that in this world is something that is very clear halal and clear haram, and what is in between, just leave it?
No, this means that if you are not sure if this thing is haram or not.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So, for example, I will mention you example about makruh, because what you say is called shubha.
Shubha. Okay.
Okay? We'll come to these things in details, but just not to mention a lot of concepts so that you get confused. Because makruh, for example, what is makruh? If we want to give some examples of makruh stuff in Islam.
Stand up and eat and drink, no?
Yeah, this is something. You eat and drink always when you are standing up. Okay? Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us to sit down when we are eating. But if someone did this, can we say you are doing something haram? No. And maybe sometimes you don't have even the chance to sit up, to sit down. If you want to buy an ice cream, for example, or some place, you don't have a place to sit.